yours, guarantee you, boy, if I ask for it, it's gotta be real big. I gotta make it just for my kids, and for their kids, as kids, that's wealth years and years. Promise my brother soon as he out and finished his bid, we finna do it bigger than anybody ever did. The odds is real big, jobs that's real big. Satan trying a little, my God is real big. Stayed up on the grind on the cards is real big. I gotta do it big, the only way that I can live.
The City of Angels is the latest first-time destination for the world's best sailors. Welcome to the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix, Port of Los Angeles. This is the second event of Season 4 of SailGP, and with Hollywood as a backdrop, this weekend promises amazing drama in one of the busiest shipping ports in the world. Alongside former world champion Emily Nagel and two-time Olympian Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris. Three fleet races scheduled for today and another 2 tomorrow before the all-important event final where only the top 3 teams will compete. Before we press on to today's racing, let's look back at event number 1 from Chicago, where the Kiwis claimed the top spot on Lake Michigan.
Well, yeah, it's just a month ago that we were in Chicago for the start of Season 4. We had 10 boats on the start line. It's the defending champions Australia who rose to the top on day 1, with New Zealand hot on their heels. All eyes were on Germany as they made an impressive debut in some testing conditions.
Unfortunately, nature didn't play ball on day 2, but despite this, New Zealand managed to defend against Australia and Canada to take the Rolex United States Sail Grand Prix in Chicago.
So after one event, it is New Zealand on top of the overall. 3-time defending champions Australia sit in second, with the Canadians currently 3rd overall. Rockwell, Denmark hold on to 4th position, just ahead of Spain and France. Emirates, Great Britain find themselves in 7th, and the Swiss, the US, and Germany bringing up the bottom 3. For the United States, SailGP 9th overall is a major relegation after being in Season 2's top 3 and part of the grand final. Crew changes and tough breaks have kept the Americans from finding consistency out on the water. But for driving Jim Spithill, progression has always been the goal of this team as he tries to lead them to the promised land and a title.
When I took over the US team, it had finished in last place. You know, the only way it was up, but it was a big task. And, you know, we put together a completely new team. We went out and we made the final in our first season.
First season in SailGP and 3rd overall. That's still an epic Season 2 performance from Jimmy Spithill.
What really stood out to me was just how far behind the US had become in terms of their pipeline and the development of new talent in that next generation. And so that instantly, that was really, when I was thinking about the project and the US team, my goal was, man, we need to be the catalyst to really inspire that next generation in the US, because there is nothing, you know, I mean, and the results don't lie. You look at the last Olympics, no medals. The last America's Cup, the US team finished at the bottom of the table, and I wanted to leave the team in a better place than how I received it, so that next wave, years and years of generation of young sailors have something, an amazing team they can come in and join, they can make a great living just like other mainstream sports, and use this incredible competition and series to do it. I think one of the biggest challenges has been certainly in our second season as a team, which was Season 3. We made a handful of podium finals, but we weren't consistent enough to string together enough of those good results to make the final.
Flying too high and losing control, that's last place. This is not where they want to be in their home event.
My belief is that the buck stops with me, and I'm completely responsible. And so I'm fully accountable for our results from last season and the events that it didn't work out. But we use that as motivation. We'll be putting everything we can out there on the water.
So a full day of racing is set to get underway. Of course, 3 races today and then 3 more tomorrow. Now, the important thing is 10 points for first place in each race, 9 for second, 8 for third, and only 1 point for 10th. So day number 1 is critical to amass as many points as possible in the 3 fleet races. For event number 2 of SailGP's 4th season, we head to the southwest corner of the United States. With a population of nearly 4 million residents, LA is a sprawling city that encompasses the Los Angeles Basin and the San Fernando Valley, making it the most populous city in California and host for the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix. But Stevie, this weekend's course could be as congested as the LA freeway system at rush hour.
Well, yeah, here we are above the port of Los Angeles, and let's take a look at the race course the teams will have today. Finding a clear path through that fleet's going to be key to getting a good start. Then it's a sprint to Mark 1. At Mark 1, the fleet can split away from each other. They sail off in different directions, trying to get to gate 2 as quick as possible. At the gates, they can turn left or right. Remember, now we're going to see the boats sail off in different directions, zigzagging their way around the course. That's because sailing boats only sail fast when they're sailing at an angle to the wind. They're going to split away from each other, trying to find more wind, trying to find tactical advantage. That's the game out here today on this very, very short racetrack here in Los Angeles. It's going to be about accurate manoeuvres, good crew work, clear communication, devil's in the detail out here. Can you find those marginal gains? If you get it all right, you'll be the team leading the fleet home under the finish in Los Angeles.
Beautiful day for racing here at event number 2, season number 4. Before we go racing, we want to take you down on the water for a first-hand report. And for that, we check in with a 4th member of our broadcast team, Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin.
It's looking spectacular out here for racing in LA. We've got a thermal sea breeze from the southwest, 22 kilometres per hour, gusting over 30 kilometres per hour. And it should build as each race goes by out here, so long as those clouds stay away from the course. It's flat water and full send mode. However, there are some big bits of kelp speckled across the race area, so teams will want to avoid picking that up on their foils because that will certainly slow them down. It's a fantastic race course here in the port of LA, flat water with moderate but quite gusty winds, Todd.
Lisa, what can you tell us about boat configurations with these conditions?
So the tech team have gone with all-purpose 24-metre wing. They've also got the light air boards but the high-speed rudders. So a little bit of a balance. We do have gusty conditions, so the up for all the power out here, and it should be a fantastic.
All right, much more from Lisa throughout the day as we get ready for day number 1 of the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix, Port of Los Angeles. This is event number 2, season number 4, 10 national teams out on the water. Back in Los Angeles as we go on board USA SailGP. This shot courtesy of T-Mobile for Business. And Stevie, if any team needs a great performance, it's the Americans.
Surely so much pressure on Jimmy Spittle, you'd imagine, out here on the race course. I mean, he's used to performing. He's done, as he said, he got to some podiums. He won an event in season 3, but ultimately it was a pretty disappointing season, and a 9th place to kick off this season. Well, they need some confidence, and they need it pretty quick.
And Emily, let's talk about this course. Leach has said that conditions are fantastic, but this start box is tight, and we've got 10 national teams all wanting that one sweet spot.
Exactly. It is going to be hectic out there on the race course, and the manoeuvres are going to be so critical out there today. It's fully foiling conditions, which means if you mess up a manoeuvre, come off the foils, you are going to lose loads.
The course for race 1 is 8 legs. The axis is 255. Wind is approximately 20 kilometers per hour.
So Melanie Roberts giving us the intel on this course. Stevie, what do you gain from that? This isn't the biggest course we've seen before. It is very tight.
Really tight. 20 kilometres an hour, that's the first thing I heard. That's very good. The wind's coming from 255, I think it said, so they've laid the course to be directly upwind, downwind with that wind direction. That's why we see the boat zigzag around a bit. Now we see the start line, that red line to the right-hand side of our screen. Just there, the boats are already gathering pace here. It's tight, it's very tight in that start box. And here we go, start line on the screen there. That blue triangle in the middle of the line, that's the optimum position to start. The bottom end of the line of our screen, that would give you a faster angle. The top end of the line as we look at the screen, that's a shorter distance to Mark 1, but the computer tells us the optimum position somewhere in the middle of the line. Who's got their timing right here? Australia. Canada look well lined up. The French are back early here. Germany once again positioned well. It's all about timing from here. Canada are well set up now, coming through the middle. Emirates, Great Britain. How's your timing in the middle of the line, Ben Ainsley? Brilliant start by Emirates GBR, absolutely on the money, and they're going to lead the fleet away to Mark 1 here. Perfect.
And the action will come fast and furious. Mark 1 right there in the center of your screen, and they'll make a sharp left-hand turn, and we are on race number 1, Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix.
What a start, and it's so short to Mark 1. That inside position, they controlled the inside of the turn. Canada had a faster angle. Canada's start was brilliant as well. First boat to turn away, Rockwell, Denmark. They were in disturbed wind. The quickest pass for them was to split away, but out the back already, New Zealand. Work to do for Burling and his crew.
10 points goes to the winner of each race today. We've got 3 of them for you. Stevie, we've talked about this before. Do not dig yourself a hole on day number 1 or you will have no chance of being in the event final.
Live speeds here from our top 3 teams. We've seen all the teams in excess of 60 kilometres an hour of boat speed, so rapidly making their way to this bottom gate now.
They're already there, and you can see that the British boat are trying to keep things simple. I think on a very, very tight course like this, the best way you can minimise manoeuvres and keep the boat smooth is going to be key here. United States, they turn late. Complicated manoeuvre here, looks like they're executing it well. Will give Australia a chance to slingshot round the inside, and if you're back in the pack, how do you find space? How do you find clear wind? Well, Eric Heil on board the German boat. First bit of racing in Chicago last time. Not exactly the most experienced team in the fleet, but he's right in the pack, going well on that German boat. And look at the game by Australia with a good rounding. Very tricky tactical situation here. The spectator boats are too close in there. Makes it hard for USA. They have to turn before the boundary, and it's going to have been tight with Germany. Australia, though, look at them. Up to 3rd already. Slingsby, menacing.
So with these great conditions, we are on leg 3 of 8, race number 1. It is Emirates GBR out in front, Canada in 2nd, Australia 3rd, Denmark in 4th, and the Americans now residing in 5th.
Currently looking at the pressure on the course, that's the wind. On the left-hand side where the Australians are, we're seeing 25 kilometres an hour of pressure, while further on the right where the British and Kiwis were, it was a little bit less, around 19 kilometres an hour of wind. So good chance for these boats, Australia, Denmark, to make some gains.
Wow, you better be on your mark, Stevie, because there are some tight crossings at high speeds here on the Pacific.
Yeah, it's certainly busy out there on the racecourse, isn't it, Todd? But those ladder lines there, they show us the fleet are moving right to left across our screen. They're progressing up the course there, and right now it shows Emirates Great Britain. They turn right close to the boundary. There'll be a
the umpires, penalty Spain, relative New Zealand, port tack boat not keeping clear.
Oh, a bit of a penalty back in the pack there, but out in front we can see that Emirates Great Britain are looking quite well lined up for gate 3. But interesting on the course here now, we can see it's very light winds where Australia are under our adrenaline lounge on the shore there. And now Emirates Great Britain, will they choose to turn right? It looks like they've made a big gain by staying towards the bottom of our screen. That's away from the shoreline there. The wind's less disturbed, and it's all about finding more wind. If you can find more wind, you're going to be able to sail the boat faster.
2 heavy hitters in SailGP, Ben Ainsley and Emirates GBR first to gate number 3, and the Australians, how about this maneuver? They are already up to 2nd place, the 3-time reigning and defending champions.
Yeah, and I like the move that Australia are setting up here. Ainsley's chosen to keep it simple, but he's going to sail into less wind that way, and that could start to hurt him further down the leg. Here comes Australia. They're going to be in good breeze, and he's got the opportunity to be fast from here, but 15 seconds, it's a big lead for Emirates Great Britain. Emirates turn, and look at the angle changing. Look at the ladder line changing here, Todd. We can see Australia sailing nearly straight down the course. Great Britain struggling for wind. This is advantage Australia.
This is the umpires. Penalty France, relative New Zealand. Windward boat not keeping clear.
Craig Mitchell, the chief umpire, doling out early penalties here on leg 4 of 8. So coming up on the halfway point of race number 1 of 3 here, day number 1 of the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix, and it's the Aussies that roll the dice early and get a little bit lucky. How you liking this, Jigsy?
Oh, that was tight. Right of way was with Great Britain there. We saw Slingsby had to swerve behind, but now Ainsley, Emirates Great Britain, they're sailing back towards the windier side of the course where Emily said she'd see more wind.
So far, we've seen the Australians sailing a lot faster than the British boat, averaging 53 kilometres an hour of boat speed compared to the Brits sailing 51. So making gains all the time, but the British in more pressure now could see that switch round.
And they come back together at the bottom here. It's going to be tight at the gate, and the right of way will be with the Australian boat if it's tight. But no, it looks like once again the left-hand side of the screen as we look at it, there seems to be consistently a little bit more wind, and that's helping those boats sail faster. Advantage potentially to Australia, who are going to turn right at the bottom here. They take a right turn and split from Great Britain.
40 metres.
So a second penalty on Spain here in race number 1, and it is Australia that has taken over the lead on the course. It is Great Britain sitting in second, Canada, Denmark, and the USA, your top 5.
In the pack, New Zealand there, they've managed to sail well in the congested zone, and they've managed to get themselves up to 6th, and they were 10th early on in the race. Could turn out to be crucial points for the Kiwi crew. Those boats at the back of the pack, Germany, Switzerland, Spain, and it's surprising to see the French back here. They're normally very good with their manoeuvres. This course is going to reward good boat handling, good teamwork, and we can see that class act like New Zealand. They're working their way through the fleet. It's going to be hard to gain places for them from here, but Australia look like they've made a game with Great Britain. Great Britain do have the right of way, though. Clear ahead, I think, Todd, from this position. Yeah. Seems to always be more wind as you come out to the left-hand side of the course as you look upwind. So, gain for Australia, but Ainsley sailing back towards more wind again.
So Ben Ainsley and Emirates GBR currently in second place. The question is, can they reel in the reigning and defending champions, Australia?
The battle at the front is getting tighter. Both teams averaging just over 51 kilometers an hour. 100% fly time, that's the amount of time they're spending up on the foils. So essentially we're seeing perfection from these two teams.
Australia, Great Britain, and Canada, top 3 right now. You want to get as many points as you can on these first 3 races today. Remember, tomorrow, 2 more fleet races before the top 3 teams will race off in the event final to bring a close here at the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix. And right now, I tell you what, no surprise, Stevie, seen Australia out there. Emirates GBR looks so good as well. And Denmark, top 3.
Yeah, Danish team. Well, of course, they showed some great signs in season 3, but Australia, look at the here. Quality act. They're going to have the right of way. Great Britain will be behind them when they get to gate 5, and the Australians are just marching their way through the fleet. Don't be surprised to see a left turn as they get to gate 5. Keeps them in more wind.
So calculations already being made on board with Tom Slingsby, 3-time defending champion. Slingsby with Olympic gold and America's Cup to his credit. He knows his way around these courses, and so far, no one has cracked the code on how to take the throne away from the Aussies.
Just got to be accurate. I think the thing we've got to remember with a small course like this, we can see all the boats interacting with each other. Every time you maneuver the boat, every time you turn the boat, you slow it down. So you're trying to do as few manoeuvres as possible. If you're out in front, it's easier to try and pick a clear path. When you're back in the pack, you've got other boats getting in your way. And that's for Canada, for the United States, for New Zealand. They're being slightly compromised the whole time. It's hard to do as few manoeuvres as possible, hard to sail the boat as fast as possible. So the rich do tend to get richer. And right now, the $1 million man is Tom Slingsby.
And Emily, we've seen this before with Australia. They don't do anything super fancy. They just keep it simple, and they're clean with their maneuvers.
I think what's really important here is also the amount of time that the Australians have had on these boats and sailing all together. The maneuvers are critical, but the skill that takes, it's well practiced, well rehearsed. Well, you've got a feel for the German team who have only had a few hours on the boat together, especially in foiling conditions, and they're being expected here to pull off maneuver after maneuver. So mistakes are going to be made, and they are going to be losing a lot of distance.
Tom Slingsby and Australia SailGP out in front. Their lead starting to grow. It's over 100 meters as we approach the 7th leg. So it's back up the course, and then it'll be a short blast to the finish line right in front of the Adrenaline Lounge, one of the best views here in Los Angeles.
Well, I think what we've learned already in this first race, Todd, is that right turn when you're at the downwind end of the course. They've sailed downwind here. They're going to now have to go back, zigzag their way back up into the wind. You know, for newcomers to SailGP, these legs, you know, you have to zigzag the sailing boats to get them going across the wind as fast as possible. But we've seen a right turn at the bottom has been a very powerful move, as we see an aggressive move by Rockwool Team Denmark. Class from Nikolai Sehested steals past the Canadians as they take a bit of water on board there, and they're going to be struggling to get up to speed on board Canada from there. But yeah, it's definitely, if you can make a right turn at the bottom, that's a pretty strong move, as we see New Zealand muscles his way past the United States, and Burling from 10th is up to 5th.
Canada with Phil Robertson as the driver, the two-time world match racing champion. He's got some tricks up his sleeve, had a great performance at the first event in Chicago to get into the event final. The Americans now have dropped back a position into 6th. Stevie, we've talked about this time and time again. You can't lose the event on the first day, but you can certainly dig yourself a hole. And we said, you know, you can't have places 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. You've got to stay in that top 5.
No, and I think here what you're seeing with a team like New Zealand, that's the difference maker between New Zealand, Australia, and I think the rest of the fleet, is their ability to convert what was a fairly disastrous start into what will now be a counter, should they be able to hang on to 5th.
And the lead continues to grow here. One more leg to go. It's Australia. Tom Slingsby out in front. Did not get the best of start, and somehow they found their way through an absolute sigler on the course on leg number 1 to find themselves now out in front. And look at this. Wow, the lead is massive. Do you see anything that Ben Ainsley could do to try to reel him in with the amount of time we have left?
I think there's absolutely nothing Ben Ainsley can do. I think all Ben Ainsley can do is hope, and as a well-known American sailor said before, hope is not a good strategy, Todd. So I think right now it's going to take a mistake for Australia, but they're just sailing the boat too well. Why do Australia win? They do the simple things very, very well again and again and again. It's not that they do anything hugely clever. They do the simple things brilliantly 90% of the time.
So here it is, Australia with the final maneuver of the race. They will bring it in and bring home the 10 points in race number 1. Not a bad showing for MSGBR. They keep themselves in the conversation. They will take home 9 points. But as they have passed the adrenaline round, it is the 3-time reigning and defending champions, Australia, that take the win. Race number 1 here in Los Angeles.
A great result by Tom Slingsby there. And we see back in the pack, good start for Emirates GBR. For me, they had a very disappointing event in Chicago. They did start well in Chicago. Can they continue this form? Certainly be good news for Ben Ainsley and that Emirates Great Britain. Rockwool Denmark as well. Mid-season, season 3, they really look like the team going to be challenging hard. They struggled a little bit more. Good start to them here. And look at this. It's going to be tight between Canada. New Zealand have the right of way. They look to dive in front here. Can Burling somehow take a 4th? Ominous signs for the rest of the fleet. If New Zealand can get off the start line, what can they do with that kind of boat speed and that kind of boat handling to get themselves back to 4th? That's pretty impressive.
So Nikolai Sehested and Denmark claim the 3rd position in race number 1. New Zealand, the Kiwis, the winners of the first event in Chicago, they hold on for 4th. Canada will take 5th, and the USA has got to hold on to this 6th place position. They cannot be overtaken by Spain here as Jimmy Spithill slings it around, and it looks like he's going to have the speed to hold off. Botan, maybe not. Look at this. Very close at the line.
Wow, that was tight. Photo finish there. Spain got it. That's a bit of an unforced error by Spithill. He could have shut the Spanish out there. Could have sailed more aggressively. Unlike Spithill to miss a chance to be aggressive. And the French back in 8th. There's a lot of teams. We're early on in season 4, but there's questions to be asked by a lot of the big teams as Germany. Well, it's a tough race course for Eric Heil and his crew, but he's still got a boat behind him. There'll be lessons to be learnt by this German crew. Good start again, and they're sailing smoothly. So for these 2 boats at the back, it's a bit of a gulf they need to look to work on through the day.
Coming down in 3.
So only the 2nd event for Germany, SailGP, and their owner Sebastian Vettel, Formula 1 4-time champion, drawn to the sport, and they are going to certainly improve as they go because the talent they have on board, Stevie, it's not going to take too much time for them to get up to speed. The Swiss will finish in 10th.
I think it's about learning, it's about developing, isn't it? And we heard coming up win there, we heard the voice of Stuart Biffle, Olympic gold medalist. The strategist is Kayana Kunz, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. She's in the back of the boat in that strategy role, and Eric Heil himself, the driver, you know, he's a 2-time bronze medalist. So there's a lot of quality, a lot of class on there. You know, Emily said they haven't had a lot of time in the boat, but we're at the top end of sport here. Sebastian Vettel comes from a pretty cutthroat world where you don't have excuses, and that's going to be the same for them.
One race down, 2 more to go. Australia, the 3-time reigning and defending champions, they take home the victory in race number 1. Emirates GBR finishes in second, and a great performance by Rockwool Denmark and Nikolai Sehested and crew. New Zealand salvages a 4th, Canada in 5th. Spain just gets past the Americans at the line to hold on to 6th. USA, France, Germany, and Switzerland rounding out that 10.
So how did the Australians finish with a 16-second lead in that last race ahead of Emirates GBR? They were faster, 51.1 kilometers per hour average speed. That's an extra kilometer an hour faster than Emirates GBR, and 100% fly time for the Aussies as well. The Danish also had an impressive performance, sailing the shortest distance out of everyone, but did lose a bit of speed for doing that.
Well, and of course the racing out there, it was tight, wasn't it? It was really, really tight. We saw Great Britain had a brilliant start. New Zealand were out the back, Australia in the middle of the pack, but it was Australia that managed to get the boat going fast. There was a series of tight crosses. We learned a little bit about the fact that the side of the course away from the shore, the bottom of our screen as we look at it, had a little bit more wind, and Australia managed to keep themselves in that wind on average a little more than Emirates Great Britain. And the split at the bottom here, they took the right turn, that took them to a little bit more wind. That could well be a feature for the day, that there's more wind on the left-hand side of the course where Australia got to. It was the gain that got the lead. If you give Australia the lead, they tend not to lose it.
Well, what a race that was. This race course is super tricky. We're seeing a big funneling effect because even though it's a sea breeze, it's kind of coming off the land. We've got an amazing grandstand and adrenaline lounge, but that's really making a wind shadow. So this left-hand side of the racetrack is really paying, and that's where we saw Australia make huge gains. The reason that is there's so much more wind over there. As we saw, it's such a tight race course though, so you have to do maneuvers, but these teams are having to think 3 or 4 maneuvers ahead so that they can prioritize that side. Because you lose so much in a maneuver, you can't just stay that side. You have to zigzag your way up. So it's really about picking your timing. I think it was really impressive for the Danish team. They're sailing less distance, which means they are picking a better path in terms of prioritizing that side, but getting better angles towards the wind. So it is pretty crazy out here. I'm out here on the broadcast boat and there's not a lot of room. There's lots of tight crosses. There's lots of penalties being thrown out as well. So if you get a penalty, you're gonna fall back in the pack. There's gonna be less room. We've got our helicopter, which is bringing you all those amazing shots, getting nice and close. And I think that there's a little bit of a helicopter gust out here too. But overall, this race course, we're going to see a pattern emerge. If you can get that right turn at that first turning gate, you're going to have a little bit of a jump on the fleet. The teams are pretty powered up when they are in the gusts, but the discrepancies between the lulls and gusts is quite big. So that's why we see them get a little bit out of control every now and then. And then they've got those big foils on, like I said earlier in the show, which means that they've got lots of power lifting them out of the water. So they've got to manage that as well. I think it's an amazing race course here in LA. I can't wait to see what happens the rest of the day. But Australia and Great Britain are looking super slick out here in LA. Can't
Another team, I'd be watching out for us.
Back in the port of Los Angeles for the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix. This is event 2, season number 4, about 22 miles south of downtown Los Angeles in America's port. Alongside Stevie Morrison, Emily Nagel, and Lisa Darmanin, I'm Todd Harris. Glad to have you with us in the Southland on a picture-perfect day as we get ready for race number 2. No surprise, guys, the Australians came out swinging. This is how, this is how Tom Slingsby rolls. He goes out and gets himself a sizable lead, makes sure he gets into the final, Stevie, and then it's catch me if you can.
Well, I think, Great Britain had a brilliant start. Ben Ainsley nailed that start, which I think is good news for them. They've not started well at the last few events, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, Slingsby, they just know how to sail the boat fast. Emily showed us the stats. They sail around 1 kilometre an hour, 2 kilometres an hour quicker on average, and if you're going faster, that's the easiest way you're going to be able to overtake people.
Well, there's the fleet doing their debriefing right now while we have a moment. Earlier today, we had a chance to visit with Hannah Mills, the strategist on Emirates GBR and an Olympic gold medalist, on her thoughts on what it's like to sail one of these amazing F50 catamarans.
Yeah, sailing the F50, I can't even describe it. Like, it's just phenomenal, you know. It's you really feel like you're in a racing car going unbelievable speeds above the water, getting thrown around. The G-force blew me away the first time I jumped on board and we turned the boat, and I was like, whoa, you know, it was insane. Yeah, they're proper racing machines, and it's unbelievable privilege to get to sail one of these boats.
So there is Emirates GBR getting ready for race number 2. Not a terrible first result, a second place. Remember, that garners them 9 points with 2 more races to go and an opportunity to get 20 more if they can win the next 2. And guys, the conditions here, well, it may be a tight course, but there are some certain characteristics about sailing in Los Angeles and the Port of LA that makes it a little tricky. The winds act differently. Of course, we're not that close to downtown Los Angeles, but there's a lot of other items that really can change the way you sail in this area.
Well, what the race course does have here in the Port of Los Angeles is the reliable thermal wind formed around the local topography. Looking over the race course, the headland towards the top of the screen is Point Fermin. This landmass acts as a natural accelerator for the wind blowing down the coast. Catalina Island, just offshore, and the headland funnel the wind, giving the regular afternoon breeze.
Well, we can see here we've got a very tight little race course because there's a lot of kelp in the water, but for our F50 it means that the left side of the course, as we look at it, will be exposed to a clearer wind that curves over the Cabillo Beach. The right hand side you'd expect to have less wind due to it being disturbed by the land upwind. So there's a lot for the crews to think about. We saw that in the first race. It's going to be windier on the left side of the course, but how do you get there? That's the question. Easier said than done.
Very tricky sailing conditions, but we have the world's best sailing this weekend at the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix. And before we get to race 2, let's bring you up to speed on how these 10 national squads are scored and how they get into position to race for the big prize in the grand final at the end of the season. At the end of the season, the winning team will lift the SailGP Season 4 Championship Trophy and claim their share of $5 million. But how does it all work? Our scoring system awards points for each race that teams compete in across a race event. The top 3 teams with the most points will face off at the event final. One final race in order to determine who takes the event title and battle it out for maximum points towards the season standings. 10 to the winner, 9 for second, and 8 for third. 4th to 10th place are awarded season points based on their position from only the fleet races. These points are crucial for the season-long championship leaderboard. The championship leaderboard is recalculated after each event, and the 3 highest-ranked teams at the end of the season qualify for the winner-take-all grand final. Almost ready for race number 2 here in the Port of Los Angeles with Australia already the win in their pocket. Lisa, how are we feeling down on the water and the conditions? Are they staying the same, or should we expect any changes for this second race?
As we're talking about that left-hand side, away from the spectators, away from that adrenaline lounge, is where there's more breeze. But the reason it's so powerful is because the discrepancy. There's kilometres of wind over here that's going to make the boats go way faster. But I tell you what, I'm out here on the race course, and it is feeling super crowded down here.
Well, yeah, Lisa, it looks pretty gusty out there. I guess there are opportunities for the boats to overtake, do you think?
Yeah, certainly. 8 up, tucked under that adrenaline lounge. There's effect to the fleet.
Apologies for the comms breakup. When you are in America's port, there's a lot of signals going through out of there as the shipping containers come and go from around the world. So we'll try to sort that out and get back with Lisa Darmanin down on the water. Guys, we are just a few moments away from the second race, so everyone does a little bit of a debrief. Emily, they go on, they talk to their short crews, get a little bit of coaching, but knowing that the conditions, knowing the course does not change at all, what really can you change other than the start?
Well, the start is definitely one of the most important parts there. We saw 20 kilometers an hour difference in boat speed from the boats first over the line and last.
Beautiful shot of the port of Los Angeles here. This is day number 1 of the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix. Stevie, they will get themselves into position in the start box, and then the battle will be on to find that sweet position and maybe hold your cards a little closer to the vest to not let everyone else know what you're trying to do or where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, I mean, right now we kind of see the boats all looking fairly slow out there, but what they're actually doing is they are positioned now to suit their timing. They want to hit that red line, the start line, coming from the left of our screen across to the right when the clock gets to 0, but there's not a lot of room to the left, so timing crucial.
There is Canada trying to get themselves a better position. They did in race number 1. They finished in 5th, but this team is just happy to be here because earlier in the season, they had some financial difficulties, and when you talk to their driver, Phil Robertson, it is good to be back on a good financial footing going forward for the rest of season 4.
The structure of the team is we've got a fantastic group of athletes, and it's been a lot of uncertainty since San Francisco in sort of May, and yeah, here we are, we're still together, so that's a good thing, and SailGP sort of looked after us and made sure we stay together and keep the team rolling as is, and yeah, the new owners will come in and I guess they get to choose what happens from there, so no, it's all good, we're in a good place and we're yeah, happy with what's going on. Big boards are the call this morning, so if the breeze comes in, if the sky's sort of clear, we're going to get some good breeze, and it's probably the windiest part of LA where we're racing, so we're sort of expecting a windy event, but yeah, big boards and breeze makes it a little tricky to keep the boat in the water. But we have the high-speed rudders on, so it's a little bit of a mixed match of foils, so that's going to make a new challenge for the day.
So just moments ago, race management pushing back the start of race number 2, 2 minutes. So there you see the clock now at 3:15 to go. Gives them a little extra time, Stevie and Emily, so they can get things ready, possibly think about where they want to be. And I guess, Emily, the big question is we've seen all kinds of different strategy trying to hit that line when it goes white. We've seen the Kiwis do that, start from the way in the back and come racing in, but with 10 national boats all fighting for one spot, I don't know if that's going to work here in Los Angeles.
Not just that, but they have a tiny start box. The Kiwis normally set up with a good bit of distance to build that speed up on the foils, and here that just isn't an option.
Well, yeah, it's all about learning, isn't it? It's how well you learn through the start. New Zealand had a terrible start, if we're being perfectly honest. They were right out the back. It's now, can they evaluate that? Can they learn from it? What seemed to work well was to be leading people back, controlling your own destiny a little bit. Seemed to be an important move. I think when there is more boats around, Todd, there's a lot more disturbed wind. We can see here, look at that huge wing sail. There's a flappy sail in front. That's called the jib. That's a small sail at the front of the boat, but that helps accelerate the wind around our big wing sail. It really helps get more efficiency out of the boats. But all those sails, they disturb the wind. If you're in behind them, there's less wind. So when there's 10 boats on the start line now, and you're in behind them, a heck of a lot less wind. So you've got to adjust your strategy to suit that, really. And all the crews will have been able to look at that first start. They'll have been able to look at what the other team's done. There's coaches in the background. I know, for instance, you know, Nathan Outridge coaching the Swiss boat. He's one of the best F50 drivers in the world, but he's acting as a coach right now. He's in the background. He'll have evaluated that first start. He'll have got the information out to the Swiss team on the water, and with a bit of luck, they should have a better plan of how to go about this next start.
And one thing you need to know about SailGP is identical boats, and they share data. So at the end of the day, everyone's data is available. No one has a secret sauce or something special on board.
The course for race 2 is 8 legs. The axis is 250. Wind is approximately 22 kilometers per hour.
So those are the numbers. We're going to do 8 legs, the same length of what we saw in race number 1. The wind is good, as Lisa Darmanin reported. And now everyone starts the dance, getting into position, finding that spot. Stevie, is this a prearranged idea of where they're going to be and they're going to try to execute it, or do you have to think on the fly?
They'll have a plan, but Mike Tyson said it. Everyone has a plan until you're punched in the face. And right now, everyone is out there trying to make their own plan stick, and you've got to think a few of them are going to have the same plan. So in that situation, you're definitely thinking on the fly. Rockwool, Denmark, they've turned back early. Germany, they've turned back early. I think it'll be a tricky position for Germany from here. They're going to have a lot of potential to get themselves trapped out. Look, bottom of our screen, 18 kilometres an hour, and that arrow showing the direction. The boats are going to be sailing across the wind, 90 degrees to the wind almost on this first leg. It's the fastest angles for these F50s. All you can do, sail straight, shoot at Mark 1, get yourself going as fast as possible. Canada up and foiling here. Germany, they're out front. They're going to struggle to accelerate from there. And at the moment, Australia out the back looking to slingshot round. There's the pole position at the bottom end of the start line. Australia are foiling at the bottom of the line. New Zealand turn the boat down now. Watch for the line to turn white. And who's going to get the whole shot?
Oh, look at this.
Clear start again, and Rockwool, Denmark. Brilliant from Nikolai Seherstedt here. Can he accelerate the boat fast enough? United States are going to be fast from the top of the line, but I think Seherstedt's going to lead them away on Rockwool Team Denmark from here.
I just got the Spanish side. Got one boat to lure, turning right a little.
Mark 1 comes fast, and it's the Danes. Viking Power make the turn first.
Wow, it's tight in the pack. They're really tight with Spain, New Zealand and Australia. I'm not sure if the Spanish gave New Zealand room. There must have been millimetres in that. But Spain have done a nice start. Rockwool, Denmark, brilliant. And Jimmy Spithill, he had a faster angle across the wind there. He used it well, and he's converted it to a third place as the boats are already now thinking about their approach to Gate 2.
Oh, getting a little loose there. Canada decides to turn away.
Phil Robertson, he loves to steer it fast and loose out there, that's for sure. You know Phil's never afraid of pushing. United States have sailed a lot of extra distance here. That seems a bit of a silly manoeuvre by them. They've sailed extra distance. They've opened the door for the Spanish and potentially the United States, potentially Australia to get back at them, but does mean they should be able to take a right turn, and they can hope to find themselves sailing towards that advantageous side of the course. Nice manoeuvre by United States. Might have redeemed themselves with that move there, as we're going to see Australia slingshot up again, and the United States will be under pressure from Slingsby and Australia already. This is a bit of a rerun of the first race.
So the Australians on the inside of the Americans there, and it's Spain and New Zealand opting for the other side of the course. France, Canada, Switzerland, and Great Britain also going left. And here come the Americans turning back on the Aussies.
They don't have the right of way here on board United States. He's done a nice job there, Jimmy Spithill. Threaded the needle. Wow, he did really well under pressure. Great execution of that manoeuvre. I thought they could have got themselves stuck on the boundary there, but they've done a nice job of getting back going. And we see Australia off the foils. Not a good tack. They turned the boat through the wind, and they've lost a lot of speed. Maybe the wind's dropping out there on the water.
Yeah, we're currently seeing all the boats dropping down to 28, 29 kilometres an hour of boat speed. We've got the speeds here, kilometres an hour, miles per hour, and knots for whichever country you're in. But the crucial number to know is that if boats are going below 35 kilometres an hour, we're expecting them to come off the foils, and that could happen in any manoeuvre.
Yeah, any mistake's going to hurt you here, but we can see there was a slight gain for Australia there. They did a nice job at the bottom of the course, got themselves in the lead, and New Zealand, who turned left at the bottom, have lost a lot of places here. So there's a lot less wind on the side of the course where United States and Australia are heading to. And I think as well, Lisa talked to us, Todd, earlier, and she said they've got the big main foils on, the one you can see there that the boat's flying on towards the front of the boat, and then the two rudders at the back, well, they're the smaller ones. It's a little bit of an unbalance there, and it means if you're not going fast enough, those rudders are going to struggle to keep you in the air. And I think that's why we see a lot of the boats tend to dip as they turn. The back of the boat gets a bit stuck in the water, and there you go, see the American boat, it jumps up front first, then backs. Tricky with this slightly unbalanced setup.
And Stevie, as high-tech as these boats are, changing the rudders out in between race is not an option.
No, not an option. That's a full pit crew job. It had to be done overnight. United States coming back together with Spain. Australia, they have the right of way there with Rockwool, Denmark. What a tight move by Seherstedt. It's so close.
Penalty Spain, relative USA, port tack boat not keeping clear.
Another penalty for Bottine. New Zealand, Burling's managed to get himself back in the race here. He's pretty well set up for the top of the course here, New Zealand. Most teams, I think, will want to do a left turn at the top. So potentially 2 more manoeuvres for Australia here if he wants to stay on the windier side of the course. Nikolai Sehested on board Rockwool Denmark, well set for that. And Burling will be hoping to do 1 more turn and then turn left.
The Danes finding a nice home here in the port of Los Angeles. Australia back in front. Denmark in 2nd place. The USA up to 3rd. And the Kiwis now getting into the mix.
Oh, Slingsby chooses to keep it simple and go straight. It's going to be interesting if he does find wind that way. Far be it from me to say, but I think we've seen that historically not be a great move here. Potentially less wind out that way, and it's all about finding more wind to get the boats going as fast as possible.
Emirates GBR not finding the success they had in race number 1, and France also struggling with Canada out the back. So, Stevie, not consistent performances really from anyone but the Australians.
Hard to be consistent in these conditions, isn't it, Emily?
It's what we call a very open race course in the sense that there's a lot of areas that you can make some gains and losses. Snakes and ladders out there. You're aiming for all the puffs you can. We've seen boats dropping off the foils, so they're aiming for the pressure wherever they can find it. But it's not always where you expect it.
Well, and a big loss there for Australia. I'm not as stupid as I sometimes sound. It would appear as though the Australians have gone from 1st and they're all the way back to 3rd. They should be sailing towards more wind now, but it's just about, can I find myself going towards more wind?
Can we give some love to the Danes? How about this? Rockwool Denmark and Nikolai Sehested out in front with a massive lead here on race number 2. The Vikings showing the way here in the port of Los Angeles.
Massive lead. That's a 1 mistake lead, Todd. Any little error from the Danish crew here and that will just disappear very quickly, but they're sailing really smoothly, and we saw so many signs of so much potential during season 3. It'd be really good for them to get that confidence back. They're well set up for a right turn at the bottom. Again, look at that. This left-hand side of the screen as we look at it, there's just more wind there a lot of the time. Big game for Australia. Denmark turn right. They're going to set themselves for a nice upwind rounding. And Sehested, well, he's in good control from here, and I'm surprised Tom Slingsby's choosing to turn left here. It's an aggressive move there. United States, they're allowed to get inside there. What aggressive from Burling, no inch given.
Nope.
I think it was a clean manoeuvre by Burling, but Jimmy Spittle was pushing hard.
And he's off the foils there, down to 18 kilometres an hour.
Just tried to do such an aggressive turn.
A lot of congested traffic down at the bottom of the course. The USA goes off the foil, so they drop back now into 4th place. It is still Denmark out in front.
This is the umpires. Penalty New Zealand, relative USA, not giving room at the mark.
There you go. It was tight. It was really, really tight. That's a massive, massive penalty for the New Zealand crew here. They've got to get back behind the United States, and the United States had a horrible rounding of that mark, probably because they were trying to keep clear of New Zealand. This is going to hurt New Zealand because they had got back past Australia. Australia did lose out with the left turn at the bottom.
This will leave some big opportunities, though, for the likes of the Spanish, who had gained a place on the USA at the rounding, and now might get the Kiwis as well.
Oh, what an aggressive penalty take by Burling here. He's chosen to sail downwind, turn the boat back through the wind, and then spin out behind the United States. It's inventive thinking on board that New Zealand boat. They didn't do it as well as they could, but what they have done is put themselves back on the windier side of the course. Burling still clearly thinking clearly out there on the water, despite what would have been a gutting manoeuvre at the bottom.
Back to my earlier point, a massive lead for Denmark, Stevie.
Yeah, it was brilliant. They took the right turn at the bottom.
The umpires. Penalty France, relative Canada, port tack boat not keeping clear.
Yeah, it's back in the pack there. A bit of an error. Right of way, boat coming from the right, had the right of way. France didn't keep clear, but yes, the Danes, I mean, they've done a great job. That right turn at the bottom was powerful. It gained them 75 metres over Australia in one move, and basically, yes, you are right, Todd. That is now, I'm happy to say, a massive lead for Rockwool Denmark.
Broken clock is right twice a day as Denmark comes up now to gate number 5. The Danes in first. It is Australia sitting in 2nd place. Then the USA and Spain, and the USA should overtake the Spanish and move into 3rd. Just a brutal penalty for the Kiwis as they were sitting in 2nd. They have to drop back. They will now be in 6th as they make the turn, which the Danes have just done. Rockwool Denmark out sailing in front. What a great performance. Nikolai Sehested, this would be a huge win for this team.
Yeah, they're sailing very smoothly, aren't they? And I think, interestingly, from that umpiring perspective, not to go back too far, but, you know, the umpires are judging with exact data. You know, they see exactly where these boats are, better than just our camera angles. And that if there was room for the United States boat, it will be a fact. So I'm sure there was only centimetres in it. I don't think there was a lot in it, but they'll know. So it's not really too much on judgment here as we see at the tight, really, really top now. New Zealand, they're going to turn the boat one more time. They have the right of way on the inside. Great Britain have done a brilliant job of getting back into the pack. He has to let New Zealand have room if New Zealand wants it. New Zealand can't quite get there. And Great Britain, they're going to come away here. Third round the mark. Another battle with the United States and the Kiwis. United States have the right of way here. They can force New Zealand off as Spain and Great Britain turn left. Historically, that's been the best way to go, but New Zealand are back in the pack. What can they do from here? I think that's the less windy side of the course they're sailing to, as we can see there, under the crowds. Great view for the crowds, but unfortunately, the crowds are blocking the wind to those New Zealand and United States teams at the moment. Mistake by Great Britain, Todd. They're off the foils. Bottom of our screen.
So it'll be a right turn for us, and it worked really well last one.
Tom Slingsby on Australia currently sitting in second place. Who's out in front? Denmark already making the turn around the gate, and they make their way up the last time on the course, and then it'll be a right-hand blast to the finish line, and all those Danish fans at the Adrenaline Lounge can start to celebrate because, barring a major incident, Stevie, knock on wood, they should claim this victory.
They just need to focus on their own boat now, I think, and just sail themselves fast.
I think that's exactly what we're seeing with them as well, though, but because they've created so much space for themselves, their manoeuvres have all been a lot more controlled. We're seeing them keep their speeds above that 35km/h mark, so they're staying foiling when a lot of the other teams are dropping off the foils in their manoeuvres.
Great Britain, talking about dropping off the foils, they were third, but they've had 2 turns on this downwind leg. When you turn the boat downwind, we call that a jibe, and they've turned the boat twice downwind and fallen off the foils twice. Big mistakes, unforced errors, really. I mean, it's not easy. It's easy to say, sat here sailing the boat. But United States, they're the big gainers. They're going to be up to third here. Jimmy Spithill has found a bit of flow in this second race. He needed it, but he's done a great job of sailing through here. Wide again, though. That's every time they've done that right turn at the bottom, they've ended up coming out of their wide and losing a bit of control. Big area that this American crew can work on for race 3.
The Spanish starting to push the Americans. They are battling for third right now as the Spanish turn away. Diego Botín puts Spanish back in third, the USA dropping to 4th. So it's Denmark out in front. Their lead nearly 200 meters over Australia. Spain in third, the USA 4th, and New Zealand in 5th.
Interesting boat here, Todd's New Zealand. When we look at the ladder lines, they're showing us how far the boats have progressed up the course. Right now, New Zealand are showing as being in third, well progressed up the course, but historically, the side of the course where New Zealand is, there's less wind. Has Burling spotted something to get himself back in the race? He's certainly not going to have spotted anything that can get himself catching back up with Rockwool, Denmark and Nikolaj Sejersted. It's been a bit of a masterclass from the Danish crew here. Get themselves ahead, and they are very, very fast.
So Denmark with 100 meters to go to gate number 7. It'll be a right-hand turn, and they will cross the finish line to claim the victory in the second race of day 1 here at the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix. Well-deserved, Stevie. They executed right off the line, almost perfect timing in race number 2. As the Danes come through gate number 7, it'll be a slight right-hand turn, and the finish line just 200 meters away.
Yeah, they've just sailed really clean. You know, they've been chased down by Australia for the whole race, but actually they've shown they can extend, so this should be a real confidence booster for this Danish team.
Rockwool, Denmark, take a bow. You take the win in race number 2 here at the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix.
That's what they needed, isn't it? As we see behind them here, Australia, well, they're well ahead. For me, the battle's for third. I think New Zealand might have got themselves right back in this. Well, Slingsby doesn't make many mistakes, does he? He's in second place here, still just about foiling. The wind is definitely looking a bit lighter out there. They're struggling to nail their manoeuvres on board these F50s. And if the Australians are struggling to nail them, then it must be tricky.
The
Further back in the pack, that battle for 3rd to 5th really is heating up. The Kiwis are still, they're just moving back and forth between 3rd and 4th here. They're sailing at 46 kilometers an hour on average compared to 42 for Spain and USA. So they are closing that gap quickly. We've seen them have to take avoiding action behind those boats, but they are closing that gap.
This will be a tight one. The battle for 3rd place is on. Will it be the Americans, the Spanish, or the Kiwis? They'll all have to make one more maneuver, and it looks like right now, Stevie, Spain has the inside line. They're the first to turn.
Yeah, Spain have got the inside line. New Zealand has slowed down. They dropped off the foil in that turn. Oh, but the Spanish have dropped off the foils here. Can the United States keep it going? It's all about how quickly can Spain accelerate from here. Spain are off the foils. United States with a bit of a roadblock in the way. Can Spittle find a way through here? I don't know. It's going to be too little too late. And the Spanish are up and foiling. Wow, it was nearly a big mistake. Here comes Jimmy Spittle. Oh, he needs to get overlapped. He can't quite get alongside the Spanish boat. And Spain get 3rd, and Jimmy Spittle there. Better race, guys. Well, it was, but every time at that downwind gate.
Real critical times, you know. But good race, though, guys.
Exactly. Pretty good debrief already from Jimmy. He's done a few of those in his career, though, to be fair. A few good debriefs. Oh, Emirates Great Britain, look at that there off the foils. Again, these small rudders on the back of the boat. The rudders are the bits of equipment they use to steer the boat with. Oh, Emirates Great Britain obviously thinks he has to give room here to Canada. I'm not sure if he does. It looks like he's going to sneak round. Canada can't quite get to him. Solid one for Great Britain, but not like race 1.
Stevie, it's the little things, though. As you look at the end of these races, for the Americans, in race number 1, they gave up a position to Spain again. They could have had a 6th in this race instead of a 4th. They could have had a 3rd. So you're looking at maybe a 6 and a 3. Instead, they walk away with a 4 and a 7.
Well, and I think in both those races, if you look at the bottom gate, so gate 2 and gate 4 and gate 6, every time they've gone and done that right turn, tactically, that's the correct decision. So they're making good tactical decisions, but they're just not executing it well. They've come out of that mark wide, and every time they've lost control. Here we go. Biffle trying to push the German boat down towards the French. The French have to turn here. They're going to be slower on board the French. Germany need to push across here. Push, 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 push.
Here, guys, get the roll. Yeah.
Germany might be able to get the speed. Whoever gets up on the foils first is going to have the straight shot to the finish line. Germany and France battling for 8th place. Who's going to get it?
Neutral depth, Canada.
Oh, here we go. It's going to be tight. The Germans, that was Biffle saying neutral diff. He's talking about the rudder setting. Germany sneak it there. Oh, there's just centimetres between them and the finish. That was really tight. Good work by Germany. Didn't quite get to that finish line in time, though, potentially.
So the race has been terminated. We're hearing from race management. It was that last leg. Stevie, you talked about the wind letting up. As soon as Denmark went through, it seemed like the conditions changed drastically, well, to the point that the wind had dropped, as Switzerland will still sail through, and now the debrief will go on with one more race to go here on day number 1.
I think that wind dropped about 5 minutes after Emily and I discussed about the reliable thermal breeze out there, Todd, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, there you are on board Denmark. Well, they won't mind the debrief now. There's coach on there, Chris Nicholson, 4-time 49er world champion. And, you know, plenty of positives, things to be talked about there.
So the Port of Los Angeles looking very good, and what a great race.
Well, again, you can't help but if you get a good start, you make your race an awful lot easier there. Rockwool, Denmark, well, they led away from Mark 1, and they kept the pressure on all the way through. No let up from Rockwool, Denmark after Mark 1. It's so tight in the pack. Look how congested that is there. But Denmark stretched away. Slingsby again, he's a monster on board that boat at the moment. They're really not making many mistakes. And well, if you're in the pack, it's hard. Get off the start, Todd. That's my advice.
There is so much happening on this race course, and I am coming to you live thanks to T-Mobile 5G. Now, let's break that race down just a little bit. There is so much overtaking going on out here, and I put that down mostly to the maneuvers because, as we heard through the commentary throughout that race, is they've got those small rudders on, and the back of the boat is sinking because there's not enough surface area holding the boat in the sky. Now, the teams don't often sail with this configuration. We either know that it's going to be light or windy, but here, because we think that there's going to be a thermal breeze, but there's quite a little cloud around. We had a big fog this morning, so it's really not helping that thermal breeze come in. And what I mean when I talk about thermal breeze is when you have cool water and hot land, we kind of get this fan effect, and it really draws that breeze in. So unfortunately today, it came in, but not as strong as we thought. So it's really, really tricky for the sailors, but I kind of like that. These are the best sailors in the world. They've been sailing together for a couple of seasons now, so they should be able to take whatever we throw at them. So I think what we're seeing those teams that have spent a bit of time together. They're really good at maneuvers. Obviously, the outstanding performance by Denmark. It's been a while for them to really crack into that top three consistently. So I know that they were really looking forward to taking it on this weekend. And I generally think that they do quite well when we have these puffy conditions. They kind of keep it simple. They go the right way, and their maneuvers are really slick. Obviously, Australia, super up there as well. Great Britain, a little bit up and down. They got back into that race, but kind of threw it away. But I was sitting at that finish for that French and German finish, and I think that was absolutely incredible. Germany were back in the pack. They were 10th, and they fought their way back up to 8th. So that'll be a really good win for them. But the wind is dying out here. It's going to be quite tricky for race number 3 today here in the port of Los Angeles.
Definitely getting you furthest.
Los Angeles, the second most populous city in the United States, is the epicenter of the movie industry, and so, as you might expect, plenty of celebrities call this part of California home. Earlier, we sat down with F1 legend and Germany SailGP owner Sebastian Vettel on his road to team ownership and the comparisons between the high-performance sailing and the most popular auto racing league in the world.
It was by coincidence, obviously. You know, I often heard that there's a lot of parallels between sailing at very high class and racing on the track, which I know probably a lot better. But yeah, then through Thomas, who was the initiator of the German team, I got into it and heard about it, learned about it, and yeah, got more and more hooked. I'm not a sailor myself yet, so maybe to be, but yeah, that's how it all started. Very exciting. Tried windsurfing, that was as close as I got, but now it's fascinating to see that there's a whole other world, which you know, does, as I said, has a lot of things in common. And yeah, to understand the element of wind is very difficult because you can't grab it. I think watching now on TV is a lot easier than back in the day because you've got all the graphics, so you understand actually who is leading and what's going on. You see where the wind's coming from and what's most likely to happen. In the end, it's all about details, and that's what every team seems to be looking for.
That's awesome, guys, honestly. That is absolutely mint.
Well, I think for sure by nature it's more sustainable. I mean, it's powered by nature, so obviously, you know, that's very exciting. Once it gets the lift and foils, it's pretty incredible. Also, to stand on land and see it is pretty cool. Well, it's still early days. Obviously, if you look at, as far as I understand, where the team comes from, Eric comes from, I think it's a big shot. I think we are happy with how the first event went and looking forward to the second one.
Well, one more race to go on day one, and if you are new to SailGP, you're probably unfamiliar with the term foiling. Here is Stevie Morrison with a quick explanation of how the foiling works here at SailGP.
Across every high-performing sport, teams are pushing to their limits. Driving our F50 catamaran fleet takes serious skill. Well, to generate the lift in order to fly across the water, the fleet uses these foils. From the dagger boards to the rudders. The higher the foils fly, the faster they go. But pushing too high means less control, as the foils will become unstable, sucking in more air bubbles instead of water, causing them to become inefficient, with a potential to fly off the foils entirely during the course of the race. Get foiling right and the speeds are incredible. Get it wrong and there could be major losses and consequences.
What a race it was for Denmark, or Rockwool Denmark, just now. But what led up to it? Personally, I think it was all about that start. Now, obviously, there's a lot less room, so we saw teams trying to find every gap. Australia and GBR were set up the furthest away from the line. Oz managed to spot a small gap and aim that way, while the Germans, a bit too early, had to slow down the pack at the bottom of the line and aim for this gap. And now that left a perfect little spot there for Rockwool Denmark to hit the line with 0.1 of a second to go.
So the Danes claimed the victory in race number 2. Australia finished in second and Spain finishing in third. And there you see how the points start to stack up. 19 for Australia, 18 for Denmark, and Great Britain sitting in third. So if this was tomorrow, Stevie, those would be the 3 teams competing in the event final. But it's pretty close. I figure if you're all the way down to 7th, you still have a shot of making the event final.
Yeah, I think so. I think if I'm France, Switzerland, have got to win this race to have any hope of making the final.
10 points to the winner, 9 to second, and 8 to third, and only 1 point if you finish in 10th place. All right, let's talk about the win, Stevie. That seems to be the critical thing. It seems like it's died just a little bit. This is the reporting we're hearing down in the water from Lisa Dormanen.
Well, yeah, it's definitely been dying as it goes on. It gets colder towards the end of the day. That thermal effect starts to decelerate a little bit, unfortunately, so there is a bit less wind. Interesting to hear Sebastian Vettel saying about how do you spot the wind. Well, that's the art. It's not about watching the wind, it's what it does to the water. Darker patches of water means more wind. That's what we want.
This is the third and final race of day number 1, Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix, the second event of season 4.
Well, here we go. The boats are lining up already, and we can see Denmark. Well, they've turned in a nice position. Australia, a nice position. And it's interesting, Australia and Great Britain are choosing to lead back. There is a lot less wind here. It's going to be very, very hard to be on the foils at the gun. Germany are out the back. They're going to struggle to find a good path in from here. Even 42 seconds out now, it's tricky for them. Rockwool Denmark well positioned. New Zealand choosing to have some space. I think the boats we should focus on are Denmark, Great Britain and New Zealand here, because they've taken the different strategies. They're leading back. They're going to get to control their timing. But Jimmy Spithill on board the United States, he looked to wind it up. He took one look at the line. He's blinked. When will he choose to go? It's about acceleration here. I think any boat that gets on the foils will be leading at Mark 1. It's going to be hard to get the timing right. Tom Slingsby looks to come through on board Australia. It's going to be Australia, Rockwool, Denmark and New Zealand coming into the line on time. Watch for it to go white, and it's going to be go in race 3.
Okay, let's try and get the bow down.
Clear start here. Emirates, Great Britain, perfect timing. They look like they've got the boat going well. They've got one hull up in the air. One hull is better than just having 2 in the water. They've got less drag, they're going faster, but they're struggling to foil. Can they pop the British boat up on the foils? First boat foiling's going to shoot away in this race here. Emirates, Great Britain, there they go. The boat's coming clear. Watch them accelerate now on board Emirates, Great Britain.
Emirates GBR will be the first to mark number 1 here in the third and final race of the day, as Mother Nature capricious at best here in the Port of Los Angeles, but the Brits find the wind and they are gone.
It's going to be, they've shortened the race course 6. There's a bit less wind, Todd, but you can see if you don't get on the foils, New Zealand, left-hand side of screen, United States, left-hand side of the screen, they are long way back. This is going to be a 200, 300, 400-metre lead for Ben Ainsley on board Great Britain within minutes of the start here. Those millimetres he was ahead at Mark 1 are going to be absolutely crucial, and it's hard to accelerate the boats onto the foils when you're sailing away from the wind. This could be a massive lead for Emirates Great Britain. Up and foiling, gone.
Huge differences in the speeds of the boats here, unsurprisingly, really. Great Britain up on the foils doing 40 kilometres an hour, while the boats further back with 2 hulls down, 17 to 20 kilometres an hour.
I think what's a bit counterintuitive here for people watching is that to actually get the boat foiling, you almost need to sail upwind to start to accelerate the boat. You've got to get going at a certain speed. You need to be sailing at nearly 32, 33 kilometres an hour to have any hope of getting on the foils. So once the boats have all turned away at Mark 1, as we can see, they're sailing away from the wind, and you're going to struggle to get the boat on the foil again, because Great Britain was foiling at Mark 1. They've just used that speed. They've stayed on the foils, generating their own wind. Apparent wind, we call it. Imagine you're driving along in your car, Todd. There's no wind in the car. Open the window, stick your hand out. Suddenly it's really windy. Anyone at home can do that on the sofa. If you just sat there, you won't feel any wind. If you sweep your hand through the air, you'll feel that extra wind on your hand. And that's the apparent wind these boats generate. But for those boats back in the pack, there is a serious lack of breeze. And Ainsley and Great Britain, well, really, this race should be in the bag from here.
Race has been shortened to 7 legs. This is race number 3, the final race of today, and then it's on to Championship Sunday. So much shorter, much lighter wind. They have had preparations for this yesterday during rehearsals and practice races, Stevie. These are the similar conditions that we saw, very light breezes.
Yeah, really light. Unfortunately, the crews are fairly experienced in this after what we saw in the last day of racing in Chicago, but we know here that Germany are very good in these conditions, and for Germany and Spain, showing a 2nd and 5th at the moment, this could be a really good opportunity to get themselves going well in the race. New Zealand sat back in 10th. They had some costly errors in the previous race, getting a bit too acquainted with Chief Umpire Craig Mitchell. How painful is this race going to be for them? Because they've got a lot of points coming in their way unless they can make something happen here. Now, gate 2 on the inside. Spain has the right of way. Canada, Australia must give Spain room to get round. They're now in the circle. Spanish have rights. Canada turns down. Australia must give Canada room. It's going to be a bit of a cram up at the junction here. This is proper rush hour traffic at the moment.
This is a typical 4:05 on a Friday night at 5 o'clock heading south. There is all kinds of traffic, everyone wanting to get to the favorite side of the course, and this is just slow going. Meanwhile, Emirates GBR is gone.
The Germans taking the split here, going for that left-hand turn. When you're in the back, it's best to just get your own space, try something different. They are not going to get ahead just by following behind the rest of the fleet.
And this is where I think Eric Heil's got a bit of class about him. Historically, he's done this well. He's managed to know when to stick, know when to twist. He's twisting here, rolling the dice, putting it all on red. But it could be the right call. He's got the space. He's not in that congested pack. And this could be a good moment for the German crew here. Although, historically, the right turn has been the powerful move earlier in the day. But it's all changed. The dynamic on the water has changed. Let's see how it goes for them.
Well, surprising to see the Kiwis, the winner of the first event in Chicago, sitting mired in 10th place, just 1 spot behind the Americans, who desperately needed a better performance than 9th, Stevie, on this 3rd race of the day, because that's going to put all the pressure on them tomorrow. There's only 2 fleet races, and then only the top 3 will race in that event final.
Yeah, I mean, right now, this race is great news for the Spanish. This is going to really put them in. They'll have had a really good day, actually, on board the Spanish boat.
Just looking here at the wind across the course, we are seeing the Germans in less breeze on that right-hand side, 14 kilometres an hour. Spanish in slightly more, 18. Still not quite enough to foil, though.
Look some way off foiling at the moment, don't they, Todd? Eastman's they're heading back up into the wind. We can see one of our helicopters down at the bottom of the screen there. I expect some of the crews would like that to come along board and give them an extra gust of wind. But foiling on board Emirates Great Britain, it's going to be rich get richer here for Ben Ainsley and crew. Bit of a masterclass for the British here. They're going to be really gaining some serious distance up on the foil. Snaps the boat through the turn. Quality manoeuvre. You've got to spin it pretty fast if you want to stay on the foils. And look at that. 400, 500 metres ahead of the rest of the fleet. It's quite a sight for this British crew, as we can see Spain in second place now. And the Germans, well, that move has not been too costly, but they've not gained out of it so far.
Let's go down to the water. Lisa Darmanin, please tell us you know where the wind is and you're going to send it our way.
Well, the wind is the left-hand side. It is away from the adrenaline lounge, but really impressive. The Spanish have also been able to get up on the foils. The Canadians are also up on the foils. So there has been a little bit more wind pushed through, but patience is a virtue out here. It's about slowly building that momentum, and when you got the opportunity to pop in the air and get foiling, you have to take it. And if you get it wrong, it's just so dangerous. So really interesting. The Swiss have also popped up on the foils here, so we could see a big shift in positions on this leg.
Yeah, and Lisa, the wind patterns here in Los Angeles are not as consistent as we may see in your home neck of the woods down in Sydney. That what are they expecting for the rest of the day, and then more importantly, what are they expecting for tomorrow?
Well, the winds are meant to be quite consistent, but the past couple of days we've seen a lot of sea fog being hanging around in the morning, so we haven't had the opportunity for that thermal effect to really show its complete glamour, I guess. So we're hoping tomorrow in the morning, if we wake up and there's no fog, we should see what was really forecast today. So 22 km/h winds gusting to 30 km/h, and that beautiful foiling champagne sailing conditions. But it really depends if that sea fog comes in the morning. So fingers crossed here in LA.
Yeah, we're hoping for a Hollywood action adventure tomorrow, Stevie, on the high seas.
Well, that's right. Yeah, it's going to be mission impossible for some of the crews after today, I'd imagine, out there. But right now, Spain, well, this is going to be a huge result for them. This Spanish crew starting to find a little bit of form here at the beginning of season 4. They're away now. On the foils, they're going to be going well downwind. Diego Botín takes the wing sheet. Florian Trittel, Nicola van Velden run across the back of the boat there. They set up to turn. Can they stay on the foils? It's tight back in the pack. Canada have done well. Slingsby, well, he's never not near the front, is he, on board that Australian boat? And all the crews keen to take the left turn. Stay away from the lighter winds under the shoreline there. And can any of these boats in the pack get on the foil? Because you feel there's places to be gained for free if you're the boat that can make it onto the foils.
And meanwhile, it is Emirates GBR out in front, fresh as a daisy, as they have really just checked out of this race.
Yeah, they've done a really nice job there on board Great Britain. Denmark there, up and foiling. So the Danish crew have done well. They're heading towards the lighter wind patch. They're going to need to be careful. Way, way out the back is New Zealand, but they are foiling on board New Zealand. If they can stay on the foils, there could be a chance to gain some vital points, but there's a lot to do.
So the USA is now sitting in 8th place. They've moved up a position, but it is still Great Britain, Spain, Denmark, and Canada that look to be the big winners here in race number 3.
We've got the masthead speeds here showing us when they go green, that means they should be just about foiling. Really watching every time the boats turn and maneuver. If it's dropping down below that 33 km/h mark, that's the boat dropping off the foils.
And at this pace, with the Brits already heading back upwind, Stevie, they're going to have plenty of time to drop into the adrenaline lounge, maybe grab a little Nobu and wait for the rest of the fleet to come home.
Well, absolutely. I think they're going to have some victory margin here on board the boat, and we're better to go and enjoy it than a bit of fine dining in our adrenaline lounge, that is for sure. But the Spanish crew, this is, again, as I say, a big result for them. Canada, big result. And it's all about sailing the boat accurately, and it's good to see this young Spanish crew there, Florian Trittel, Diego Botín. They worked together in the 49er class, just been at the Olympic test event. They're a finely tuned team, but they're starting to gel in F50 world.
Yeah, Spain now sitting in 2nd place. There's Canada up and foiling with Australia just on the right-hand side. Quick look at the numbers. Remember, Great Britain got 2nd in race number 1. In race number 2, the one they'd like to throw away, Stevie, they're in 6th, but they're on their way to getting a win in race number 3. So you've got a 1, a 6, and a 2. That's not a bad first day report card.
That's a brilliant first day, and I think what we'll see at the end of this is Spain, Australia, Great Britain. They're going to be looking pretty good. Canada, they've kept sniffing around. Another good result at the moment for Phil Robertson, but it's going to be very, very tight for all those teams, certainly behind Great Britain and Australia, if they're going to have any hope of making tomorrow's final. Aggressive manoeuvre by Australia there. He looked to split the course with Canada, but instantly looked for the left turn, turned the boat again straight away. They all want to come to the bottom of our screen where there seems to be that bit more breeze. And Australia, it was an aggressive move to make it happen. I think maybe a little bit of an interesting choice by by Tom Slingsby. They didn't choose to follow Canada. He might rue that.
There is Emirates GBR slowly making their way around that last marker on the top of the course as they will bring it home. They're going to bring it back up. Looks like they can pop it back up onto the foils as the Union Jack is out and waving. Emirates GBR bringing it home for a victory here in the third and final race here of day number 1 at the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix. It's the Brits winning race 3.
Well, that is some margin of victory, but all established by being the first boat to get up on the foils on that first leg. The Spanish crew, they've done a nice job. It's tight back in the pack, though. New Zealand have not managed to make anything happen. This could be really, really costly for their event hopes here on board that New Zealand boat. They're way back in the pack, as is the United States. Switzerland, well, this is better for Seb Schneider on board the Swiss. They are up and foiling. They've had a terrible day to date, 2 tenths place, so they need to get some points happening pretty quickly here.
Another 5th place here for Denmark. While it might not be the best result in the world, they've done really well at being consistent today. And this would actually put them in 3rd overall at the moment.
Yeah, Denmark, remember, in the first race got a 3rd. The second race, they got the win. So to Emily's point, being consistent, being in that sweet spot, Stevie, if you don't get the win, obviously, anything 2 to 5, you keep yourself in good money.
Yeah, you're taking counters. It's, I think, a big feature of there now being 10 boats in the fleet. What angle there has Phil Robertson found on that Canadian boat. He's nearly sailing straight up the ladder lines. He's going to get very, very slow at the top here, I think. Too little too late to have a hope against the Spanish, but a magic angle for the Canadian boat there as the Spanish fans on the beach, they're enjoying their time here. Great second place finish for them.
Diego Botín in Spain bring it home. They will grab 2nd place to go with a good performance in race number 1 where they got a 6th. The second race they got a 3rd. So Spain looking good overall as they can get a good opportunity on tomorrow. Remember, there's 2 more fleet races before the event final. Canada will come in to 3rd place. So Canada had a 7th in race number 2 and a 5th in race number 1. And I think, Stevie, if you're thinking in golf terms, they're going to probably be on that cut line.
They're going to be right in it, yeah. It's going to be really, really tight. I think the thing with 10 boats is that consistency will be the key, and we can see the best team, the event winner in Chicago, was New Zealand, as we see Australia coming across the line there in 4th. Nice work by that crew. Denmark there in 5th, but they're very, very slow. Might be a chance for Quentin de la Pierre. Great foiling manoeuvre by the French. Where's he going to go here? Denmark are going to struggle to defend here. Can they hold off the charging French? I think probably they can. But yeah, the event winners in Chicago, they're back in 10th.
A drag race to the line. This is the battle for 5th place, and just at the line, it's the Vikings. Rockwool Denmark holds off the French, and Quentin de la Pierre will have to settle for 6th. And then the Swiss come across for their best performance on the day as they will finish in 7th.
9:30. Go.
Much needed result for the Swiss there, I'd say, Todd, because they've had a tough day. And Jimmy Spithill, they're still struggling, this US crew. 8th place here. They're really finding themselves a bit mired down in the pack. Little mistakes are proving costly. German crew, we'd expect them to be somewhere at the back. I've got to say, they're still doing well. They're still yet to have a 10th place.
Yep. So the Americans come through in 8th, and the report on them on the day will be an 8, a 4, and a 7.
We're going to be able to just pop and go off the top of the line there, you know.
Germany will finish in 9th place, and surprisingly, the winners of the first event in Chicago just a few weeks ago, the Kiwis, finding problems out there with the wind shutting off just before the start of the race. They will finish dead last in 10th.
Snakes and ladders, eh?
Well, there we go, and it was pretty tight, wasn't it? And of course it came down to this moment. It was a lot less wind at the start, but Emirates Great Britain, they had the hull in the air first, so they got the speed building. They did a nice job of building speed. They got on the foils. We could see the rest of the fleet was all stuck, 1 or 2 hulls in the water. Emirates Great Britain up on the foils, and well, they sailed away. It was a bit of a masterclass, but get your nose out in front at the start, and the rest of the race follows pretty easy from there.
Well, Emirates GBR definitely stole the show there. They had 40% of the race up on the foils. That's that flight time shown there. And Spain chasing behind them at 35%. And that's clearly dropping all the way down to the further back in the fleet. Those up on the foils, trying to foil at around 0.9 of a metre. So average height for the race is a bit further down. Australia, most stable on the foil when they were up.
So the entire fleet is home as we go back to the start of race number 1 for the Rolex best time start. Let's give it to the French as they hit it perfectly across the line. No penalty for them. Well done, Quentin Delapierre and the French, as they are the Rolex best time starts in race number 1 on day number 1 here at the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix.
Well, and I think those starts, I think we're going to see it in the 10-boat fleet. We're going to see it on a tight course like this. If you do start well, it's going to make your life a lot easier to get a top result. Doesn't guarantee you a race win. First race of the day, Australia showed their class and overtook Emirates Great Britain. But Rockwool Denmark, well, they've had a bit of a time in the pack, renowned for being quite consistent, that's for sure. But they've done a nice job here of getting off the start line, and they showed they've got the boat speed to match their consistency as and when they give themselves the chance. There were some tight moments, certainly was some really tight racing, but champagne finish for Nikolai Seherstedt, much needed. And then, of course, this last race, again, came down to the start. The crews have got to go back and analyse this start box. It's a small start box, not a lot of room to get your positioning and your timing right. But if you get that, that is everything if you're hoping to have a good day out here on the water. And, well, Emirates Great Britain, I think they're going to be pretty happy. But once again, Tom Slingsby, he doesn't give people much room for mistakes, and it was a good masterclass from the Australians through the day.
Emirates GBR take the victory in race number 3 to go with their 2nd place in race number 1 and a 6th place in race number 2. All right, so 3 races complete. We've got 2 more fleet races tomorrow, and then it's the event final. And here's how the scoreboard plays out. It's Australia on top with 26 points. Great Britain sits in 2nd, even with Denmark on 24. Spain in the running with 22. And here's where the folks that are on the cut line: Canada, USA, and New Zealand. They're going to need a win, Stevie and Emily, and some help to get into that top 3. So they're hoping for bad things to happen to Australia, Great Britain, Denmark. But I'll tell you what, it is all on, all to play for. 2 more fleet races tomorrow. And Lisa, we're all hoping you've got some great news on what we can expect for tomorrow's Championship Sunday.
Well, originally the forecast was to be a little bit lighter on Sunday with 18km/h winds from the same direction, gusting to 25km/h. So we'll have our fingers crossed that there's no sea fog in the morning and we have that full thermal effect. It'll be interesting to see what the tech team does and if they put those big rudders on to help those foiling manoeuvres for the F50s. But I don't think there's any excuses out here. The teams that got up the foils, stayed on the foils, they were the ones to win the races.
And Lisa, I guess the big question would be for you is, if you have the lead like Australia, Emirates GBR, do you play conservative tomorrow, or you leave no chance and try to get out one of those wins in races maybe 4 and 5?
It's such a tricky race course here. I don't think you have the option to be conservative. You've got to find those pockets of wind. You've got to really commit to going to where there is more wind, because sometimes it might be 1 or 2 km/h more wind on one side, but here it's 5 or 6 km/h more wind. So that advantage is so much more. So it's not high risk, it's high commitment.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa, for your hard work out on the water as we look forward to Championship Sunday, day number 2 of the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix, Port of Los Angeles. Emily, final thoughts before we say goodbye.
I'm really excited to see what happens with the Spanish tomorrow. They really impressed me today. They've stepped it up since last season, and I think there's more to play tomorrow.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's just about start analysis for the coaches tonight. The coaches have got in, get in there. They've got to work out how to find the clear path towards the start. And for New Zealand, for the United States, for any of those teams, they've got to come out firing because they've got to win.
So that will wrap up day number 1 tomorrow. 2 more fleet races and then the event final. We hope to see you back here in the Port of Los Angeles for day number 2 of the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix. For Emily Nagel, Lisa Darmanin, Stevie Morrison, and our entire crew, I'm Todd Harris. So long from LA. Welcome to the Oracle Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix, Port of Los Angeles.
Brilliant start by Emirates GBR. Perfect. Canadians as they take a bit of water on board there.
Australia take the win. Well, look at this. The Vikings showing the way here in the port of Los Angeles. Emirates GBR will be the first to mark #1 here.
Boiling on board Emirates Great Britain.
It's the Brits winning race 3.